Are you a senior citizen or pensioner relying on the SASSA grant to cover your daily essentials, your food, medication, and transport? Then this video might be the most important thing you watch today. Because just days before July 1st, SASSA has released urgent updates that could affect your next payment date, eligibility status, and even how and where you receive your money. Now, here's what you need to know. This isn't just another routine reminder. We're talking about new verification protocols, updated banking details policies, and changes to the grant review process that could lead to delays or even suspensions if you're not prepared. And listen to this, for the first time in months, SASSA officials have issued public warnings to grant recipients about pending deactivations for those who haven't confirmed their income status or responded to SMS notifications. Miss these deadlines and your July payment might not arrive at all. We'll break down exactly what documents you must submit, how to avoid common grant errors, and the steps to take now to secure your payout, even if you've never used a smartphone or don't have regular access to the internet. Whether you collect your grant via post-bank, cash send, or direct bank transfer, this update affects you. And even if your last payment went through without issues, that doesn't guarantee the next one will, unless you're informed and prepared. So if you or your loved ones depend on the older person's grant, disability grant, or child support grant, don't risk missing a cent. This update could protect your grant and your peace of mind. Tap that like button if you care about protecting your future income, and stay with me as we unpack all the critical SASSA changes happening before July 1st. Let's make sure you don't get left behind. Now let's get right into what's happening behind the scenes at SASSA, and more importantly, how it directly impacts you, especially if you're a pensioner or senior citizen depending on this grant to live with dignity. First, we need to talk about the increasing emphasis SASSA is placing on verifying beneficiary details. What used to be a simple check every now and then has now evolved into a stricter, more systemized process. This means if you haven't updated your contact information or banking details recently, you might already be flagged for review without even knowing it. Imagine waking up expecting your grant on the usual date, only to find out there's been a hold placed on your funds. That's the kind of scenario we're trying to help you avoid right now. SASSA's new policy rollout includes re-verification not only for new applicants but also for existing beneficiaries, especially those whose information has remained unchanged for a long time. That might sound harmless, but here's the kicker. They're using automated systems to flag outdated accounts. So if your phone number is no longer active or your ID has any discrepancies, you might not even receive the notification that your grant is under review. The result? Delays, frustrations, or even temporary suspensions. And we know how hard it is to get through to the call center or to schedule an in-person appointment, especially when queues are long and staff are overwhelmed. Now let's address the elephant in the room, banking issues. One of the most common reasons grant payments are being delayed is because of mismatched banking details. SASSA has clearly stated that the account where the grant is deposited must belong to the beneficiary. No more using someone else's bank account to receive funds. While this policy helps reduce fraud, it's causing massive confusion among elderly grant recipients who may not even have a personal account or who had set up their grant deposits using their child's or spouse's account years ago. If this sounds like your situation, then this is the time to fix it before July 1st rolls around. Because once this new rule takes full effect, your payment may not be processed if your banking profile doesn't match your ID. And here's something many people aren't talking about: the influx of automated SMS messages from SASSA. These texts usually ask for income confirmations or verification of your identity, but a shocking number of people are ignoring them, either thinking they're spam or because they simply don't trust texts anymore. That hesitation could cost you your grant. SASSA has confirmed that many of these messages are indeed official communications, and ignoring them is leading to silent disqualifications. It's understandable to be cautious, especially with so many scams around, but it's even more dangerous to ignore something that might affect your only stable source of income. Let me walk you through a real scenario that happened just last week. A 72-year-old pensioner from Limpopo didn't receive her grant for May. She thought it was a technical issue, waited a few days, and even borrowed money to get by. When her son finally got through to a SASSA agent, they found that her grant was suspended because she hadn't responded to an SMS asking her to confirm her monthly income. The message was real, but because she doesn't use a smartphone and lives in an area with poor signal, she never saw it. Her grant was marked non-responsive and temporarily suspended. That's why it's critical to stay alert, and if you can't manage these updates yourself, make sure a trusted family member helps you check regularly. Another major area SASSA is tightening is the income threshold check. The grant system is meant to support those who genuinely don't have other stable financial support. But with the cost of living rising, even a small amount received from a relative, let's say R500 a month, could technically exceed the income threshold and result in your application being flagged. You'd think they'd consider the context, right? Sadly, no. These are algorithm-driven decisions, and unless you submit a manual appeal, you might be automatically disqualified without the chance to explain your circumstances. This is why it's essential to know how to log your appeal and provide evidence that any small financial support you receive is irregular or insufficient to cover your basic needs. On top of that, there's a growing issue with biometric verification. In some regions, SASSA is rolling out systems where your identity is confirmed not just by your ID number, but also by a fingerprint or facial scan, especially for in-person collections. While this sounds secure, many older beneficiaries are struggling with it. Fingerprints that don't register due to age or health issues, facial recognition tools that don't function properly in rural areas with poor equipment, these are real problems people are facing. And the worst part? When the machine fails to recognize you, you don't get your money until someone at the office manually approves your case. But that takes time, and it takes travel, effort, and patience that many seniors don't have. Now, let's talk about payment dates. Yes, we all know the grant payout starts at the beginning of each month, but what you might not know is that these dates are now being staggered more strictly based on the type of grant and the last digits of your ID. SASSA says this reduces congestion and allow smoother process, but the truth is, if you go on the wrong day, you might be turned away. Worse yet, if your information is missing or flagged for review, you might not even be able to collect on the correct day. That's why it's not enough to know when your grant is scheduled. You must also ensure your profile is updated, verified, and approved by then. Another question we've been getting a lot, what if I recently moved or changed address? Does that affect my grant? The answer is yes, it absolutely can. SASSA now uses geolocation and address verification to flag inconsistencies. If your grant is registered in one province but your bank account or ID activity shows up in another, it could trigger an investigation. They're trying to prevent fraud and duplicate claims. But for honest recipients, this becomes a bureaucratic nightmare. So if you've moved, update your SASSA profile immediately. It's not just about receiving letters or notifications, it's about avoiding a situation where your grant gets delayed because the system thinks you're committing fraud. What's worse is that during these reviews, you're often left in the dark. You don't get real-time updates on your application or re-verification status. You only know something's wrong when the money doesn't come in. And calling the helpline? That's easier said than done. Hold times can run over an hour. And even then, you might be told to visit the nearest SASSA office. For older individuals, especially those living in rural areas, this is more than an inconvenience. It's a physical and financial burden. That's why community awareness is more important than ever. If you know someone who receives a grant, check in on them. Ask if they've received any SMS updates. Help them check their banking info. Sometimes that one conversation can prevent someone from going hungry next month. As we approach July 1st, we're also seeing a push for people to use digital tools. SASSA's mobile app and online portal have been promoted as faster ways to manage your account, but let's be honest, not every senior knows how to navigate an app or fill out an online form. That's why many NGOs and community support centers are now offering SASSA Tech Days, where volunteers help older citizens go through their accounts, fix errors, and submit forms digitally. If you're struggling with these tools, reach out to your local municipal office or even a nearby youth center. Many young people are stepping in to bridge the digital divide, and we need more of that spirit in our communities. One final piece of urgent information that's often overlooked: if your grant was ever suspended or lapsed, even for a month, and you didn't reapply or appeal within the given time frame, you might have to start the entire process over. This isn't just a simple reactivation, as some think. You may be required to provide new proof of income, updated ID verification, and in some cases, even a medical certificate if you're applying under a disability category. That's why ignoring a problem, even for a week, can spiral into a month-long process of trying to get back what you've lost. So if you suspect your grant is under review or something looks different this month, act immediately. Don't delay. The sooner you resolve the issue, the faster you can restore your benefits. And for those of you watching this, not for yourselves, but for your parents, grandparents, or elderly neighbors, thank you. The care you show by staying informed is powerful. Not everyone has the ability to log in, check their account, or call a help desk. Many rely entirely on word of mouth or the kindness of someone like you. If you found this video helpful, share it with others. Sometimes a single piece of shared information can mean the difference between someone receiving their R2090 this month or facing an empty pocket on payday. Yes! So as we wrap up, remember this: July 1st is more than a date on the calendar. It's a deadline for action. A reminder to verify your details, respond to all messages, update your banking info, and check on the people around you who may need help navigating the system. SASSA may be tightening its processes, but with the right information and timely action, you can stay one step ahead and protect what's rightfully yours.